Hello and welcome to The Long Way Around, a place where time ceases to exist as long as I keep talking in the spirit of Tink Tinker. This week I have a very special guest joining me all the way from Bandung, Indonesia. Rossie Indira was born in Bandung, Indonesia, and although she studied architecture at university and then business for her MBA, she is now a writer and co-publisher at Badak Merah, a publishing house she founded with her husband, Andre Vilcek. Badak Merah publishes not only Andre and Rossie's books, but also books of their comrades from several parts of the world. Rossie co-wrote Exile, pardon me for the poor pronunciation, Promiada Ananta Tor, in conversation with Andre Vilcek and Rossie Indira. It was published by Haymarket Books. Then her first travel book, Surat Dari Buddha Osi, Letters from Auntie Rossie, about her travels with Andre to several countries in Latin America. This book was the first of the series. Next was about her travel to Morocco, and the latest was about her travels to South Africa. Currently, she's writing about her travels in Thailand, and after that, she will be publishing her travels in Indochina. Rossie is also a filmmaker. She was the production manager of Terlana, Breaking of a Nation, a documentary film by Andre Vilcek. She accompanied Andre on many of his film projects. The latest one was Downfall. Apart from reading and swimming, Rossie loves singing. She was the first female head of the ITB choir. When she was an architectural student, she sings with her friends from the choir, even made several virtual singing projects with them during the pandemic. She now lives in Bandung, Indonesia. Her website is rossie-indira.weebly.com. And without further ado, welcome, Rossie. How are you?
Thank you, Malcolm.
It's an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for getting up early. I know it's it's exactly 12 hours time difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's 8 a.m. in Indonesia. But I'm an early riser, so that's no problem whatsoever.
Okay. Well, they pulled that old trick on us over here. They every however long they make the clocks go back and forward. They fall back, right? So
that's true.
it's the old trick to make the work.
I still don't understand the concept of that.
Well, it's to be a little cynical about it. It's one of the things that the bosses use to pull on the workers, because if you have to get up early in the morning and it's dark, you're less inclined to want to get to work. So they put the clocks back so that the workers could go to work and the sun would be out. Of course, the bosses didn't care about the workers on the way home. It would be dark. Too bad.
That's true.
So it's just another way of the oligarchy to keep the workers in the dark, so to speak. Anyway, let's see. Well, I have to make a special thank you to, first of all, to Liz Hill for connecting us. Thank you, Liz.
Sure.
And also, thank you very much for giving us John Pilger's information. I had John on the show fairly recently. He was a guest a few months ago, and without your help, that wouldn't have happened so quickly, I'm sure. He's a longtime friend of yours, is he?
Not mine. John and Andre communicated, many times before. As usual, I was just in the background because I used to do many things for Andre, but not in the foreground. So, yeah, I contacted John before, and then Andre, who was communicated with him.
Yeah.
Usually.
Well, John spoke incredibly highly of Andre, and for the listeners in the audience who may not be aware of Andre's work, Andre, unfortunately, he passed away. How long ago was it since he passed? It's about
It was 2 years ago in September 2020.
Right. But he was a fearless journalist. I mean, there are one of the kind of ongoing narratives I've been having with people I talk to is this sort of lack of courage. And Andre, I actually posted something on my Facebook today, a quote of his talking about courage, and where he says courage is, for the sake of itself, is not worth anything, but it's what you do with it. And it just seems that there are so many journalists out there that are don't have that kind of courage anymore, and it's a sad loss for the world, for us to lose, Andre. I've also been enjoyed being part of your social media network of friends on Facebook and reading about your life in Indonesia and your travels and your love of interesting cuisines from around the world. You're closest to your family and many friends. Would you tell me about growing up in Indonesia, your education, your interests, which I know are very varied? I'm quite sure people in the United States really don't have much idea what it's like living there.
Indonesia. Most of my younger days were under the dictatorship. So it was under Suharto at the time. And I was born in 1962, and 1965 happened. My dad was a political prisoner at the time, so he was sent to the concentration camp. But the thing is that my family was very what do you call it? Very silent about that. So growing up, me and my sisters were didn't know anything about it. So we were like, that's the title of our first documentary with Andre. It's Terlena, meaning that we weren't aware of many of political issues at the time. So it was bad. The situation was very, very bad, but we were not really suffering so much. Compare at a later date, when Andre and I conducted many surveys, many interviews with the 1965 victims. Compared to those victims and their families, my family were okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's actually how Andre and I got really, really very close, was because of the making of the documentary.
Mm-hmm. Well, we here, in the West, we look at places like Indonesia. I had recently had a Keala Kelly. I don't know if, do you know Keala,
Yes.
on the show, and again, Hawaii, like Indonesia, is one of those places for people in the West to sort of go and, they go to Bali and they go to the beach and they think of this sort of fantasy wonderland place. But I just finished watching, well, there's two films that I've seen. One is The Act of Killing, which the film that came out a few years ago, which is just an extraordinary film. I mean, just unbelievable, the whole way that film was made. And then I just finished watching Downfall.
Yes.
Kehankuran, is that the right pronunciation of the Indonesian? That's Kehankuran. Is that Downfall in Indonesian? No, I'm getting
Kehancuran. Kehancuran. Yes.
Kehancuran, right?
Yes.
So I'd like to just talk a little bit about, what happened in 1965. I mean, that was the point where everything changed in Indonesia. What I understand is that before that, under Sukarno, the country was thriving, it was developing, it was leaning towards a socialist government. And then the United States, I should think, decided that that was not to be had.
Yes.
And so they
Yes.
backed an overthrow, which then led to, 1965. I mean, the numbers are still vague as to how many people were killed in a
Yes,
very
it's
short.
between 500,000 to 3 million.
Which
So it was a tragedy for us. It was a coup d'etat, basically. But Suharto and the West were really, really successful in covering it up, basically. Although even until now, if you go on the streets in Indonesia, even in the capital city of Jakarta, and ask people about 1965, I am sure that maybe 99% will answer that it was, the Communist Party who did it. After all, many studies conducted in the West, in Indonesia as well, and concluded that it was Suharto that did it with the backup of the West. People still did not get it. It's really sad. It's so sad that until now people are, and it was until now it was what do you call it? They brought it up again and again that it was the Communist Party. So the animosity towards communism, towards socialism are there in Indonesia, and it was used to attack whoever dare to use these systems to enhance people's life. That's very sad, but that's the fact in Indonesia still.
Yeah, and I understand that it turned into a situation where, for example, if a neighbor didn't like the other neighbor, or they wanted their cow, or they coveted their neighbor's wife, they could say, well, they're a communist, and they would have been arrested. And to this day, some of those in the film, in Andre's film Downfall, your film as well, you see some of the perpetrators of those crimes on television, on national television, being applauded to this day. It's really just a complete brainwashing of the society.
Yes, complete. And even many people want Suharto to be awarded a hero, the national hero. Can you believe it?
Well, I mean, he was the only reason he lost his. Finally, the United States said, I think Bill Clinton said, well, it's time for you to go. But we'll have a, quote, peaceful transition, a democratic transition. Of course, the United States could have done that any time it wanted, but anyway, it's we're seeing that happen here now too. Also, there's a real brainwashing operation going on here. The current situation. I mean, I did want to sort of ask you. I've got Liz's questions, but I've also got some of my own here, and I'd love to get your opinion. Not only just your opinion, but also, what do you think Andre would say about what's going on right now? For example, the situation with Ukraine and Russia. What do you think his response would be?
Well, he wrote about it, about Ukraine and all that. Basically, the president of the Ukraine, he would say that the president of the Ukraine is the puppet of the U.S. government. I mean, it's so obvious. So, and he would I think he would support Russia in that situation. That's I have no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, I just went through a little bit of a social media spat today because I pointed that basic fact out, and you should see some of the responses, especially from some of my Canadian. I'm Canadian. Well, I'm American and Canadian, but many of my Canadian social media friends were saying things to me like, "Well, if you love Putin so much, why don't you move to Russia?" And it's just I can understand the kind of brainwashing that's happened there because I'm seeing it here also. It's this kind of bizarre turning around of reality, almost like something out of a very strange Soviet era science fiction movie that we're now living in the middle of.
yes, and you can imagine what the people here, because we don't know much about Russia and the area, the region. We don't know much. Especially it was like banned under the Suharto regime before. Russia, China, and all that. Yeah, that's how brainwashed we are.
And in Indonesia, I mean, I understand it has the largest Muslim population
Yes.
in the world.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And
Correct.
and one of the things that in Downfall is pointed out is how fundamentalist Islam, Wahhabism, and also fundamental Christianity has been used to basically brainwash the people and pacify the people and cause them to be very intolerant and racist, for example, towards Chinese people or even immigrants. I noticed there was a section in the film talking about even Afghan immigrants being very unwelcome there because, well, for obvious reasons. Speaking of Andre, I'm also very honored tonight because I know you've not given an interview like this in the past, certainly not since he passed away. His death was a very great shock and loss, and I understand he was working as hard as ever up until his death.
Yes.
There seems to be some mystery surrounding his passing, though. Would you care to weigh in on that, or?
Yeah, maybe because there were some really gruesome death of several journalists, I think, prior to that. So when he passed, and he passed when we were traveling from the city of Samsun
in Turkey,
Turkey to Istanbul. We were going back to Istanbul at that time, and during that night, it was Andre was still what we call it, maybe sober and really still very sharp.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted me to write down what he thought at that time because he couldn't type it out himself. And I didn't sleep until about maybe 3:00. Waiting, taking care of him, but he was asleep. And then he woke up at 3:00 approximately, and he asked how long would we arrive in Istanbul. I said it was about in 2 hours. Oh, still long, he said. And then he went back to sleep, and unfortunately at that time I also fell asleep. And when we arrived in Istanbul, the drivers, we had 2 drivers at the time. The drivers were asking direction to the hotel, and I woke up at that time. And when we arrived at the hotel, I tried to wake up Andre and he already passed. So I didn't see any what anything unusual or criminal or things like that in his death. Yeah, he just passed.
That's very sad.
Yes.
Well,
But I had to go in interrogations for a full day that day with the Turkish police.
did they perform an autopsy?
Yes.
And they didn't come up with
Yes.
anything unusual?
No, it's they concluded it's pulmonary embolism, the cause of death.
I see. Well, we have to do every little while. We have to do some community announcements. They usually run for about a minute and a half. So we'll take a quick break to do that. So if you need to get up and do things that people do when they're not on Zoom.
Okay.
Be about a minute and a half, and perhaps when we come back, we'll talk about a bit of music or something very positive.
Right.
Okay, so stay tuned. We'll be right back after these very important messages.
What does community radio mean to you?
I think of radio for the people. Broad, wide-reaching, people-driven.
Radio Kingston.
Many voices, one community.
Hi, I'm David McNamara from the Samadhi Recovery Community Outreach Center. We're a nonprofit organization grounded in the belief that mindfulness-based principles and practices create a strong foundation for a path to freedom from addiction. Our programs are free for the whole community and include mindfulness-based training, meditation, art therapy, trauma-informed yoga, individual and group talk sessions, holistic-based treatments, and so much more. Our offices for community outreach and peer recovery services are located at 150 Sawkill Road in Kingston, and our outpatient clinic is located at 368 Broadway, room 204. If you'd like any information about the services we offer, you can call us at 845-853-8148 or visit our website at samadhi, SAMADHINY.org.
How's the traffic looking, Bob? Oh, wait, breaking news. This just in. We are in some and we have some work to do.
Doesn't everybody know that?
Yes, but there are people doing the good work.
I'd like to hear less about what happened, more about the good work that's happening, and most importantly, if we keep doing the good work, what comes next?
What comes next?
What comes next? Join us for the Good Work Hour, Tuesday nights at 7.
We'll be diving into what good work looks like in action, illuminating the people who are showing up, speaking out, and doing the deep work to move us towards just transition in the Hudson Valley. It's hosted by Susan.
It's hosted by Asia.
It's hosted by Terry Hall.
It's hosted by Micah.
Caitlin. And I'm Alen.
We want to capture the heart of everybody's good work.
Shine enough light on it so we can all feel the love.
That's the Good Work Hour, Tuesday nights from 7 to 8 here on Radio Kingston.
AM 1490.
FM 1079.
And anytime at radiokingston.org.
Well, if you're just joining me, my name's Malcolm Byrne, and you are listening to Radio Kingston, WKNY, and this is The Long Way Round. Tonight I have a very, very, very special guest. Rossie Indira is joining me from Bandung, Indonesia, live via the miracle of Zoom. So, Rossie, you sent me a playlist, well, a series of suggestions of songs. So I took the liberty of kind of putting things together in a way that I hope is entertaining and moving as well. And I thought maybe the first piece of music, I know that Andre was a big fan of Johann Sebastian Bach. Whenever I watch, I've seen, I think, let me see, of the films that you guys made, I've seen about 5 or 6 of them now. And Bach seems to kind of come up fairly regularly. So I was going to play a piece of music that is also one of my favorite pieces of music. It's the very first movement from the Goldberg Variations, as performed by my fellow Canadian Glenn Gould. so we'll listen to that, and then we can talk about that music a little bit. This is Glenn Gould playing the very first variation of the Goldberg Variations. Piece of music. It's so moving.
And yeah, we listen a lot to Bach, also because we have a Chinese comrade who's like they call it probably the best interpreter of Bach in China, and Yuan Sheng. He was our comrade.
He's featured in the film, right? In Downfall.
Yes. He played some music for the film, for our films as well. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because years ago I watched a documentary, Yehudi Menuhin, very well-known violinist, and it was back in the 80s, and he was traveling in China, and he was teaching. You know, he was sort of trying to teach the Chinese. You know, he was with students and so forth, and I looking back on the film now, because he makes these comments about the Chinese students, and he's always complaining that, you know, you're very talented and you're very good at skill, but you need to learn how to be emotional in the music, you know. And now looking back on it, I see so how colonially and arrogant bad attitude. You know, as if Chinese people just don't have any feelings or something.
Don't have emotions.
Yeah, they're just,
I know.
you know, they're so inscrutable, you know, it's just mechanical, you know. Anyway.
No, Yuan studied in New York for many, many years, but then he decided to go back to China and work there.
Mm-hmm.
I think the government asked him to come back and, develop more the classical music there in China.
Well, I'll have to listen to more of his playing because, you know, if I was to pick one composer or any music, if somebody said, well, you know, we're going to send you in a mission into, Elon Musk called me up and said, hey, Malcolm, you know, we're going to send you into space. You're never going to come back, but guess what? You get to go to Mars, but you only get one record on the. It would probably be something by Johann Sebastian Bach, and at the moment it would probably be the Goldberg Variations, but
right.
Maybe it would be Juan Cheng. We don't know.
Yeah.
But you have a big interest. You have a big interest in music as well, right? You.
Yeah, but the thing is that because in Indonesia at that time, it was not encouraged to listen to revolutionary music during my younger years. So I listened more to pop music because I think it was intentional by the government to engage us only in pop music. And because it's easy listening, you don't have to think, you know, and all that. So if you see some of my playlists are pop music, yeah, that's because of that. And when I met Andre, he was like against pop music.
Well,
you know,
in the film, he's very critical of how the culture is just, you know, he keeps using this word downfall of culture, downfall of spirituality, downfall of religion, downfall of growth. And he's constantly, in the film, you know, constantly pointing about how this pop culture is just used to sort of just keep people sort of
destroy.
Just to destroy any ability to be critical of the system.
Yes. Because actually, the Indonesia has very good traditional music, which were also very revolutionary. And they also have this traditional Indonesian opera where people talk about daily problems, society problems, love, and all that in traditional form. But that was destroyed in 1965 because many artists during that time were sent to concentration camp because they were dangerous for the regime at the time. So that's why Andre always stressed that this was one of the things that Indonesia failed, because if the Indonesian people can continue to use this form of music, this form of culture, then maybe they will not be so destroyed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it may be a little arrogant for me to say this, but it almost seems like people in the West are more familiar with traditional Indonesian music than a lot of Indonesians at this point. Do you know?
It
not
can
traditional
be,
music.
It can be true. It can be true. Although the maybe nowadays after we were stuck in this lockdowns, people also started to go back to the traditional culture, such as music, and then also clothes and dances. Hopefully, we will preserve our traditional culture and not be suppressed anymore.
Yeah, at the end of the film, Andre says it will get better. He refers to saying he's summarizing, and he says something along the lines. I'm paraphrasing, but he says something along the lines of, "But it will get better in the future." But then he says, "Wait, no, I hope it gets better."
Yes.
So
yes.
Something that really strikes me, and it seems to be an ongoing theme with the work, is just this. And the film starts out with this statement where, education is a human right.
It's true. Yes.
It's sort of this. It's the foundation of everything. So, could you talk a little bit about it, that, education, and how important that is?
It is very important. It is very important. The thing is that nowadays we think about educations, but always in the Western way of education. It's Western education that is being considered as an education. So if you have other way of educating people, it will not be considered as an education. That's and I think during maybe the last decade, I saw many movement of people using different kind of educations. It's like nature educations, like homeschooling, and not entering the Western education, because the education that we have here in Indonesia, basically Western education.
It's another form of brainwashing, almost.
Yes, and although we have also religion-based education, religion-based schools, but I think they are still following the curriculum of Western education. And Andre, in this instance, would promote not to follow Western education. He thought that they were basically failed. They just have produced brainwashed society. He would promote a local-based knowledge education, but that's a very difficult thing to achieve with all this again brainwash people, because like in Indonesia, I think most of the educators here went to study abroad to the West. Very little go to China or to Cuba or to Korea.
sorry to interrupt you, but in the never-ending sort of bad news that always seems to be surrounding us, I noticed there was one piece of very good news that came last week, was that 160 out of, I think it was like 2 countries that didn't vote to lift the embargo on Cuba finally in the United Nations. So, yay. Finally, it's
finally.
It only took 70 years, 60 something.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. And although Cuban education, for example, Cuban doctors are everywhere, especially during the conflicts, even in Indonesia. So we met many Cuban doctors in Timor-Leste, in other places of Indonesia when we have disasters and all that. But we will not think of sending doctors to Cuba to study. It's unthinkable for Indonesians to do that, I think, and maybe for other countries as well.
I can't imagine Americans wanting to send their children to Cuba to get an education, but it's an interesting fact. There's an old saying that through adversity comes innovation and so forth, and Cuba actually has they developed a COVID vaccine before most other countries because they've had to do things on their own. They have actually got one of the most advanced organic food growing.
Yes.
Because again they couldn't get pesticides, so they sort of. But it's also sad because in the film, Andre says, Indonesia produces nothing. No, we can't think of one mathematician or a writer or an intellect. It's all just consumers now. He says that in the film.
Unfortunately, that is quite true. It's difficult for me to say this because it's because we for many decades we were not encouraged to be different. We were not encouraged to really excel and be different. We were pushed to be similar in thinking, in saying, in many things.
Similar to what?
Similar, for example, as Muslims, you have to do this and you have to do that in accordance with the teaching. But it was if you have different interpretations of the teachings, it was not really encouraged. It was even punished to have different views, and that continues to continue to other field. And now we eat tofu and tempeh all the time. I mean, almost every day probably. But we don't produce the raw materials enough for Indonesians to have it. It's we have to import it, and
it seems like that's part of a plan to sort of keep the country subservient. Because, I don't think a lot of people understand this, I'm sure you can talk more about this than I can, but, one of the largest gold mines on the planet is on because Indonesia is a group of islands, and there's, I forget the island that has this.
17,000 islands we have.
17,000 islands, yes. It's extraordinary. But there's one of the islands it's just, the whole country seems to be this just a free-for-all of pillaging, of mining, and
Correct.
Just no regard for the environment. I mean, it's the seemingly one of the most prone to climate environmental disasters. I mean, we had the tsunami of 2018?
Six.
Was it 2006? 2006.
Yeah.
Gosh, time flies. People are living so close to the water, and it's just all of these things seem to be going on, and it just it sort of makes you wonder, like, is there any sense of foresight going on with the government? That, there's even a section in the film where there's an interview with an urban planner, and the woman is talking about how there's no sense of building a city with the people in mind. A place for people. Like, a city has to be a place for people first.
Yes.
And then you cross, and then in the film you cross to the new president of Indonesia meeting with Donald Trump, saying we're open for business.
Yes. Yes.
And Donald's sitting. They're both.
Always the case, Malcolm. That's always the case.
We're open for business.
Yeah. It's it's very, very sad situations that we always put on the platter our resources to gain acceptance from the Western countries, from the Western leaders. It's like, okay, you vote for us, but and I give you this, and I give you that. It's very, very sad. It's very, very sad. And I don't know how much we lost. I mean, even during colonial period, 350 years of Dutch colonialism here, I don't know how much we lost as well. So we always lost. We always lost.
And naturally, the PKI, which is the communist party. It's still looked upon as a threat. I mean, there's a museum somewhere, right? The PKI
until now.
Museum where people go and they hear about the communists and all these terrible things that they did to the people, which is completely a lie. It's a false narrative.
Yes, but if they always pick up some problem from the communist leaders at that time, saying that they are also corrupt. They were also corrupt and all this and all that. They killed people and all these things that they say. They didn't see the intention, the good intentions of the Communist Party at that time. They think that even now they have Communist Party here. No, we don't have. But they always think that even if, for example, if I said something that good for the people, and they will always say that, oh, you are communist. You belong to Communist Party.
And you should move to China.
You should move to China or to Russia or to, it's...
it's somebody made a comment to me just the other day, because people forget the fact that, for example, Russia during the Second World War, paid the very, very heavy price.
Yes.
They lost more of their citizens in 5 years than the rest of the world put together. I mean, 26 million Russian citizens died, civilians and military, and it goes without saying that had it not been for Russia, it's almost hard to imagine that the Nazis would have been actually defeated. Yet somebody makes a comment. Yet someone makes a comment to me. Yes, but they raped and pillaged their way across Germany, and to somehow negate everything else by saying that, yes, but they raped all the women. It's just, it never seems to stop. We're always fighting against this bizarre categorization of something that ultimately is meant to help the people.
Exactly the same. Here as well, same. If you do something good and all that, they will always pick, things that were not correct, and
Well, they say
use
the
that
same thing about China. I mentioned something about China, and people say, yes, but look at their human rights violations, the Uyghurs and the Tibetans. And I'm like, wait a second. You're telling me, you're an American citizen. You're telling me this. Yet America has the largest prison population of any country on the planet. And you're trying to tell me that China's got the worst human rights record? I mean, I'm not saying that there's not bad things going on in China or anywhere else for that matter, but it just seems a little disingenuous. Listen, we just have to do a quick one of those promo things again.
Sure.
And we'll come right back. And sorry to interrupt you there, but we'll be right back in about, let's see, how long do we have? About a minute and a half. Stay tuned.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Micah from the Good Work Institute. We are working towards the creation of a community fund, a fund designed and run by the Kingston community. At GWI, we are committed to building local economic power and encouraging projects to democratize wealth throughout the region. So we're taking this step, dedicated to advancing just transition in the city of Kingston. What gets created is up to all of us. Do you think it should be a loan fund, an investment fund, an emergency fund, or some sort of hybrid? And what do you want the fund to fund? Housing, education, playgrounds, businesses? Let us know what you think. We're having events in November and December, both online and in person. Click on programs at goodworkinstitute.org.
Radio Kingston.
Many voices.
Many voices.
Many voices.
One community.
Hi, this is Dan Reinhardt. Join me every Monday night at 7 p.m. for Sport Talk here at Radio Kingston. For 42 years, we have interviewed national and local sports figures, getting the pulse of what is happening in the world of sports. We also connect with the sports authors and writers covering the national and local sports scene for a flavor a little different than your regular sports show. So join me every Monday night at 7 p.m. right here at Radio Kingston, AM 1490, FM 107.9, and anytime at radiokingston.org.
Yes, and we're back on the radio with my special guest, Rossie Indira. And Rossie and I were just discussing, what were we discussing? Something or other absurd. Speaking of absurdity, we're coming up on yet another one of these elections in America, which is always kind of amusing to watch. This is the midterm elections coming up, and I keep getting information in my inbox telling me that this is the most important election of your lifetime. And I'm like, well, you told me that 2 years ago, and you told me that 2 years before that, and I'm starting to get a little suspicious.
Andre always said that, about election in the U.S., president that are smart like Clinton or Obama are actually the worst. He would say that they were actually the worst presidents of America.
Qualify that, because I'm going to get some. I'm sure there'll be some pushback from a certain number of listeners in the audience. That how dare you say that? Clearly, Donald Trump was Hitler in disguise, and he's the orange monster and all the rest of it. How can you possibly say that Barack Obama or Bill Clinton were worse than that?
Well, he would say that. Andre would say that he prefers to face Donald Trump because he was just so easy to be enemy with, because he was so open, so loud, so whatever, and he's just put everything in front of him.
Well,
Well,
I'll tell you an anecdotal story, which I hope you find amusing, because you have to laugh at the end of the day. It's there has to be some humor, otherwise we go crazy. And this was when Donald Trump was running for election in 2016, and I went to get my car worked on at my local mechanic, just down the road, and I had a Bernie Sanders, Bernie. I was, I thought, well, at least Bernie Sanders is saying a few things I can understand. He's not just talking complete rubbish. And anyway, so the mechanic's working on the car, and he looks at the car and he sees the bumper sticker and he goes, "Bernie Sanders, isn't he a communist?" And I said, well, no, not really. I mean, he's not even really a socialist by anyone's standards. He's pretty moderate. It's not exactly a neoliberal, but and the guy, and I said to the guy, well, who are you supporting? And he says, well, Donald Trump, of course. And I very politely said to the young man, well, why do you like Donald Trump? I mean, what is it about Donald Trump? And he goes, well, at least he's an honest crook. I think that's something Andre would have appreciated.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. He puts everything in front of him. He put,
At least it's the devil. It's those ones it's the sheep in wolf's clothing. I mean, it kills me to watch these guys like stumping right now because Joe Biden, poor man, is having a little bit of trouble, and so of course Barack Obama is out there sort of doing appearances with him to sort of get out the vote, and I'm just thinking like these people, they're just. I had a guest on a couple of months ago, a guy named George Galloway. Do you know who George Galloway is?
I heard about it.
He's a Scotsman. He was a member of Parliament under Tony Blair, and he's quite an outspoken guy. He has his own TV show and so forth. And he described the two political parties in America as two cheeks of the same ass. Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Because really, it's hard to sort of differentiate. I mean, if you're a black or brown person living in Sudan or someplace, the bomb, who cares? It's still the bomb is dropping on your head. It could be a Democratic bomb or a Republican bomb.
Republican bomb is bomb.
Bomb's a bomb. It's a friendly bomb. Or Joe Biden, what did he say? Well, yesterday he said something about we're going to make sure everyone's driving electric cars by the year 3050. And I was like, wow, 1,000 years from now. This is great. But what did he say recently? It was kind of outstanding. It was something about converting the military to a green future for the military, the U.S. military. And I thought, well, those Yemeni people are going to be really happy to find out that bomb that just blew up their village was sustainable,
Sustainable bomb.
Sustainable. Anyway, gotta laugh. You gotta laugh.
I know.
So, let's do some more music. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do this one little thing I got to do right at the top of the hour. 3, 2, 1. There we go.
From our studio in Midtown, this is Radio Kingston, WKNY, AM 1490, FM 1079, Kingston, New York.
Just so you know, you're listening to Radio Kingston, WKNY. I'm your host, Malcolm Byrne. My guest is Rossie Indira, and we're having a jolly good time here on the radio from live from Indonesia.
Bandung.
That's your hometown? Is that where you're originally from?
Yes.
Yes,
I was born here.
And where is that?
It's about 150 kilometers from the capital of Jakarta.
Ah, okay. So it's on the main island.
It is on. Yeah, it's not the biggest island, but it's the most populated island in Indonesia. It's Java.
Java.
The island of Java, yes. And Bandung is the capital of West Java.
Mm-hmm. And Indonesia you mentioned it earlier. As I understand it, before, it was what it was before the white people showed up, but for 350 years it was a colony of the Dutch. Is that correct?
Dutch. Yes.
And so and then what about East Timor? What's the difference between?
It was a colony of Portuguese before so it was not under Dutch.
I see.
Timor, the East Timor. But yeah, if I say this, I would be castrated by Indonesians because we went there in 1974, and
well, that was a terrible conflict.
They said the army said that they were helping the East Timorese at that time. But in reality, it's a conquest. It's a conquest of the Indonesian army to there. And so when we, in parentheses, lost East Timor in 1999, well, actually, we didn't lose. I mean, it was not ours in the first place, but many people in Indonesia will say that it was ours. So, yeah, Andre was covering that conflict as well at that time. He was tortured there.
Yeah, he talked about that briefly in the film. What happened to him? He was taken by the secret police or the military?
Yeah, he was caught by the military. Although he was just there for a few days because he was just escaping from the ship that took him to Sorong in Papua, but he was caught. He was lucky that he was a U.S. citizen at that time, so he was helped by U.S. embassy there.
Andre, where was Andre born? He
was born in Leningrad.
So he's Russian. But then he became a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, his mother is Russian Chinese. His father is Czech Austrian.
Huh.
So he was a quarter Russian, but he always said that he's a Russian American. That's Russian was his mother tongue.
I see. Okay. Well, I think we should play some music.
Okay.
And I'm going to play this song, and this one's for you, and you'll recognize it as soon as I play it. Okay. So this is for Rossie.
Thank you.
How did I best of me for you. And we'll have no ending if we can hold on. And I think I've come this far because of you. Could be no other love but ours will do. You were my one more chance. I never thought I'd find. You were the one romance I've always known in my mind. No one will ever touch me more. I only hope that in return I might have saved the best of me for you. No one will ever touch me more. I only hope that in return, no matter how much we have to learn, I'll save the best of me for you.
Well, that brings back some memories, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Of
That
course.
was David Foster, actually, another fellow
Yes.
Canadian.
We listened to David Foster when I was still in the university. So I studied architecture, and so in the final year, we have to be in the studio for the final project. And David Foster was one of the composer that we listen almost every day.
Well, it's interesting because we over here we knew him more as the kind of mega producer of the 80s. You know, he produced a lot of huge records, Celine Dion, and the list is quite impressive actually. But that was a solo record that he made in I think 1985 or 86 or something like that. So, and I'm not quite sure who was singing on that. I think
That's Olivia Newton-John.
Oh, is that? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was with Olivia.
Oh, she's another one we lost recently. It's so sad.
Andre was laughing so hard when I told him about that. He was said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you listen to pop music all your life."
Well, I mean, it's look, there's a lot of the world's a hard place, and we have to lighten up sometimes, and live a bit. But no, but I do understand his. I'm kind of very similar, I don't have a lot of tolerance for frivolity or that kind of pop world culture sort of stuff. But
yes.
But nonetheless, that's a beautiful song, so we can appreciate that. I wanted to ask you, I've been reading Exposing Lies of Empire. That's the book that I'm most familiar with of Andre's. I know he had a lot of books and articles and made many media appearances. But talk about your publishing company a little bit and how you got started and some of the people that you're working with.
Yeah, this was not the first publishing company that Andre and I work on. Actually, we had mainstay press before with our comrade Tony Cristini from the US. We published several of Andres and Tony's books at that time. But then, I think around 2013, we decided to have another publishing company and based here in Indonesia, because we don't want just to publish English language books. So now we publish 4 languages actually already. So it's English, it's Chinese, Russian, and Indonesian. I published, I think, more than 20 books of Andre. I think before he passed, published like about 18 books of his. And after he passed, I published 6 of his books and call it in the series of Message for Humanity by Andre Wojcik. We have that series now for his books, because basically in his life he was very, very productive. He wrote like every day almost, and published so many articles, so many essays and all that. And we plan on publishing books based on themes, based on conflicts, based on many things, including actually books of his photos. He had like tons of photos from all over the world, and I'm thinking of publishing them as well, but maybe next year. We also publish some comrades of us, from Canada. We have a comrade there, Christopher Black. He's an international human rights lawyer. So we have Peter Koenig. He's based in Switzerland and Lima. He was, I think, World Bank analyst at some point, but then he became to the left, and then some Australians and Indonesians as well. In Indonesia, it's also not only for political non-fiction, but also fictions. We publish novels also. We publish poems.
And there's quite an impressive list of films. I mean, my favorite, Downfall is incredible, but I think my other favorite film of yours and Andre's was Dadaab. About the Somali refugee camp that came out in 2012.
That's One Flew Over Dadaab.
Yes, that's really that was the first film of Andre's that I saw, and there's something, there are many photographers and journalists whose work I admire, but one of the things that I really appreciated about his work was I've seen photographs. For example, there's a very well-known anti-war photographer, a guy named James Nachtwey, and he's actually done a lot of work in Indonesia. But his photography it's almost too beautiful. Like when you see the photo, you're like, wow, it's a shocking image because it might be something quite tragic, but it's a beautiful photograph, and you almost become kind of overtaken by the beauty of the photograph, whereas Andre's work is very stark. It doesn't try to pretty the picture. It's not a romantic vision of the situation or the description. It's, you know.
That's absolutely correct, because Andre was not in favor of editing photos. Like, people now, it's, beautifying it, or
well, I think they think there was a big controversy. You probably may or may not be aware of it, but there was that I've sort of come to the conclusion that a lot of these charity organizations aid. They're almost like it's almost like a weird form of colonization. You get these philanthropic organizations that go around the world, and there was a group, I forget what they're called, but there was two brothers from Canada, and they became quite famous because when they were teenagers, they started this charity organization. It was supposed to build schools somewhere in Africa, right? And they started raising all this money, and then they'd start having concerts, and the next thing you know, the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, was hanging around with them, and they made everything very accessible, and they'd have these concerts, and everybody get very involved. And then it turns out that, who knows where the money's going and whether the schools are really getting built, and
right.
and I really, I'm not quite sure what I know what I'm trying to say, but I'm having a little bit of difficulty, and I'm sure Andre would have articulated it in a minute better than I could. But do you know what I mean? Like the marketing, like what happened in the 90s with all of this stuff was that people start, like the Bono effect, Bono from U2, it sort of became like a marketing strategy,
Yes.
And it shouldn't be like that. The marketing, you shouldn't have to make it a fun thing or a pretty thing or an exciting thing for people to get involved in. That just seems to be the antithesis of what it ought to be,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, because it's both of us, very bad at getting people's support in terms of money. We just put, GoFund or crowdfunding links on our website, and that's all.
Yeah, but you know what the difference is, and I'm certain of this when I say this. I'm certain that in 20 years, or if the world survives another 20 years or 100 years, this work will be the work that people will look at. It will last. That I'm very sure of.
Hopefully, yes. Yeah, because basically when we made films, we use our own money, our own savings.
But then you don't have to. Then you don't have to use. You don't have someone telling you the narrative.
No. It's only Andre. It's only Andre that tells me, or I tell him, things. Because for films about Indonesia, mostly my work in terms of interviewing, arranging, and all that. And that's actually how Andre, knew about me in the first film that we made, this Terlena Breaking of a Nation, because I would like, on 2 or 3 phones, arranging interviews and arranging travels to places, because it's not only in Jakarta at that time, it's in Bandung, it's in Jogja, in Bali, in Surabaya, and all that. And we have also 2 foreigners, 2 comrades from from Helsinki and from Stockholm at that time as filmmakers. And they were both live in Hanoi at that time. So we, things like that I had to arrange. And that's why I was the production manager for that film. And for Downfall, actually, it's he said that actually you are also director because you're also directing me. I said because I said you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to meet this and that. So I'm co-director for that time, for that one. But he's very, very clever. He's genius, for if I may say so, because when you are on a filming expedition with him, sometimes I didn't see something came up, and he was always, it's like he was always ready to film in whatever situation. And he's very persistent. So when, for example, we were driving, I was driving, and he was in the passenger seat, and he would say, "Stop," and I have to stop right then, because if it is like 100 meters from there, it's already gone. So I have to stop right away. I have to very cautious of the, whatever behind me or in front of me or whatever, but I have to stop, otherwise he lost it. And so he's like always thinking about filming whenever we go. We can go like from Bali driving towards Jakarta. It's like 1,000 kilometers away, or only in Jakarta in the traffic jam, or even in traffic jam, if we say stop, I have to stop, because otherwise he would lose the moment. Maybe in Downfall you saw that one person with really a deformed face,
yes,
on the street, and that was one of the moments that I had to stop in middle of the road so he can film.
Yeah, there's a
things
few
like that.
There's a few moments in the film like that. Is even the closing shot of the young boy with the American flag T-shirt and these.
Yes.
He's doing this kind of little dance, coming towards the camera, and it's one of those moments. I'm actually a bit of an avid photographer myself, and I understand that you almost have to develop like a sixth sense, like eyes in the back of your head. You're always watching, for those moments when they occur. So a lot of respect for him on that level. Going to do another one of our little promos. Boy, the time just goes by fast. It sure does. So we'll do one of those.
I was worried about these 2 hours.
Oh no, it's always the same. I've been doing this for a while now, and quite often when I'm just about ready to start doing the show, I'm thinking, wow, 2 hours, like how's it? Is it going to be like going to the dentist and having your teeth pulled? But once we start going, it's like, we're running out of time.
Time flies.
So we'll be right back just after this moment. So stay tuned.
Okay.
¿Cómo sabes qué es lo que está pasando en Radio Kingston?
How do you know what's going on at Radio Kingston? You can tune in, go to our website, Facebook and Instagram, but did you know?
Radio Kingston tiene su propio boletín bilingüe.
Radio Kingston has its own bilingual newsletter.
Puedes enterarte en qué hemos estado trabajando.
You can find out what we've been working on.
Y aprender sobre los programas que más te gustan y los programas que todavía no conoces.
And learn more about the shows you love and shows you may want to learn more about.
También hay una versión de audio.
There's an audio version too.
¿Qué más te gustaría encontrar? Recuerda suscribirte en nuestra página web radiokingston.org.
Let us know what else you'd like to find. Go to our contact page at radiokingston.org.
Hi, I'm Adiane Bartley.
Hola, mi nombre es Neri, aquí de Broadway Bubble.
Hi, I'm Jill from the Broadway Bubble at 718 Broadway.
We have a super attentive staff and we speak English, Spanish, and Kichi.
Tenemos un personal muy atento y hablamos inglés, español y quechua.
We've renovated and have a really nice workspace, kids space, snack table,
free soap, free dryer on Wednesday, and we even have a drop-off service.
Espacio para niños, mesa aperitivos, jabón gratis, secadores gratis, los miércoles, e incluso tenemos un servicio de entrega.
That's the Broadway Bubble at 718 Broadway.
We're open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Estamos abiertos los 7 días de la semana de 8 a 8 de la tarde.
And we're back on the radio with Rossie and Indira. Rossie, let's do some more music.
Okay.
And I'm going to play a track. I wasn't sure which of so many tracks to play from Iwan Falls.
Iwan Falls, yes.
I picked one, and you're going to kill me because I'm probably going to mangle the pronunciation, but it's called Ujung Aspal Pondok Giri. I don't even know what that means. What does it mean?
It means the end of the road of the Kiri left hut, something like that.
Uh-huh. And what? I'm not familiar with the artist. Could you tell me more about the artist and their...
I listened to him because he was from also from Bandung, but also he has this songs that he created about how the corrupt people in Indonesia live. They live, extravagantly, without shame, and just didn't care about the other people. So that's how I listened to him before. I'm actually not sure about the song that you picked, but
I could pick a different one. Is there one in mind that you would prefer me to play? I can call it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, Bento.
How do you spell that?
Bento.
Bento.
Yes,
Okay.
Bento.
Let me find it. Bento, the miracle of modern technology. I was clicking.
Yes.
Bento / Bongar? Or just Bento?
Yeah. Bento.
Okay, I think. I'm not finding it in my Spotify. There's a track called Bento by Swami, but that's not.
No, by Iwan Falls.
Well, let me tell you what I've got on my playlist, and you can tell me if Bento is the name of the song. Is that correct?
Yes.
Maybe try putting the name of the song in first, and then maybe it'll come up. Bento, Bento. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be in
Spotify.
Spotify.
That's okay.
How about let's see, what else do we have? Iwan Falls. "15 number one hits." No, that's not. I don't think so. This is Iwan Falls. How about Galang Rambu Anarki?
Yeah, that's okay too.
Is that a good one? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This is Iwan Falls.
Yes.
anarki. Anakku lahir awal Januari, menjelang pemilu. Galang rambu anarki, dengarlah trompet tahun baru menyambutmu. Galang rambu anarki, ingatlah tangisan pertamamu, ditandai BBM membumbung tinggi. Maafkan kedua orang tuamu kalau tak mampu beli susu. BBM naik tinggi, susu tak terbeli. Orang pintar tarik subsidi, mungkin baik kurang gizi. Galang rambut anarki, anakku. Cepatlah besar matahariku, menangis yang keras janganlah ragu. Tinjulah congkaknya dunia buah hatiku, doa kami di nadimu. Galang rambut anarki, dengarlah terompet tahun baru menyambutmu. Galang rambut anarki, ingatlah tangisan pertamamu, ditandai BBM melambung tinggi. Maafkan kedua orang tuamu kalau tak mampu beli susu. BBM naik tinggi, susu tak terbeli. Orang pintar tarik subsidi, anak kami kurang gizi. Galang rambut anarki, anakku. Cepatlah besar matahariku, menangis yang keras janganlah ragu. Tinjulah congkaknya dunia buah hatiku, doa kami di nadimu. Cepatlah besar matahariku, menangis yang keras janganlah ragu. Hantamlah sombongnya dunia buah hatiku, doa kami di nadimu.
What a great song.
Thank you, Malcolm. It was actually quite very interesting because Iwan Fals is always has interesting songs, and this one was about his son. So although he's talking about his son, but he still has this critic inside the songs. Like for example, is Galang Ambu Anarki is his son's name. He was born early January after the election, and when the gas prices were very, very high at that time, and he and his wife couldn't afford to buy milk. Things like that are in his songs. So he's still giving critics to the government, even when he's talking about his son.
Well, it's one of the great joys and pleasures of being able to do this work. Well, I don't really think of it as work, but every I always get to hear like music that it's like, wow, I've lived all these years and never heard that before. What a gift! So now I have a new favorite music. It's fantastic. Thank you. Well, I wanted to play another song from your list, and the artist, of course, I'm actually familiar with is Victor Jara, and I love his music. I've actually played some of his music on another show, so I'm going to play a track called Manifesto.
Siempre será canción nueva.
Victor Jara, his manifesto.
So beautiful.
Yeah, very moving, very, very stirring piece of music.
Yes.
Well, all of his music. You know, there's, and I'm sure you and Andre both shared this feeling, and I'm very much the same. There seems to be, it seems like we're coming to a point in human history where we're at a kind of a crossroads, where we've seen the limits of capitalism. You know, to go back to Indonesia. Indonesia seems like an example of the ravages of unrestrained capitalism and what it can do to the people and the environment over a period of 5 decades of just,
yes.
You know, no restraint whatsoever. And it you know, and it feels to me like some of the basic concepts of socialism and education and organization are becoming so essential. And that's a theme that is always in Andre's books and always in his writings.
Yes. Yes, agree. We are at the crossroads, and we have to tread it very carefully here also, because in Indonesia, it's really savage capitalism. It's when someone introduce just a bit of socialism, it's always getting attacked. It's many people just don't realize that we have savage capitalism here. It's but we need to fight it. And I have to say that there are now quite many people that already started to realize that this cannot go on. We have to steer it and really think about the people. And even if we don't label it as socialism, but we have to think about the people. What's good for the people. And it's not easy. It's not easy, I think.
No. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, even here, it's only been probably the last 6 years, maybe, that the word socialism was not a dirty word. People, when you say socialism or socialist, people instantly think of, oh, you must be a communist, and you're one of those people that wants to put us all into gulags and control our thoughts, and they don't understand the...
And you wear uniforms. Work in a, factory.
Like a robot.
All work in a factory, yeah.
But when you look at the alternative that we're facing, I mean, it's, I think Greta Thunberg just put out a book. I haven't seen it or read it, but she basically talks. I mean, she's a very intelligent young woman. She basically talks about the limits of capitalism and how it's, unless we address that basic issue, we're not going to be able to address anything, as far as climate change or that is concerned. And I get very annoyed with these people that seem to try and sell it, the sort of Bill Gates and Bonos of the world that are trying to sell us this rosy colored package of how, if we just make some incremental adjustments to the system, it's going to all just work out fine. And here, it's just...
Yeah.
I don't know. Andre would probably have something better to say than I do about it, but I'm just a guy on the radio. But let's play one of your other tracks. I want to make sure that I have time to play this one for you. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. But again, this is for you, and it's definitely not for Andre.
Thank you.
Look into my eyes, you will see what you mean to me. Search your heart, search your soul, and when you find me there, you'll search no more. Don't tell me it's not worth trying for. You can't tell me it's not worth dying for. You know it's true. Everything I do it for you. Look into your heart, you will find there's nothing there to hide. So take me as I am, take my life. I would give it all, I would sacrifice. Don't tell me it's not worth fighting for. I can't help it, there's nothing I want more. You know it's true. Everything I do it for you. Oh yeah. There's no love like your love, and no other could give more love. There's nowhere unless you're there all the time, all the way. Into your heart, baby. Oh, you can't tell me it's not worth trying for. I can't help it, there's nothing I want more. Yeah, I would fight for you, I'd lie for you, walk the wire for you, yeah, I'd die for you. You know it's true. Everything I do, oh, I do it for you.
Thank you.
That was for you,
Thanks
Rossie.
so much. I do it for you, Andre.
Well, you do it.
Well, I just got a message about this communist party that I just told you before, that 99% still think about the Communist Party was behind the coup in 1965. I got a message from younger generation, one of the young generation writer. She said, "Oh, come on, good day. Now the younger generations already read about the truth in that was already open in the U.S. Documents." And so I think now it's 30% of the young generation don't think about the Communist Party was behind the coup, she said. So yeah, that's just a message that I just got.
Well, it's interesting because I don't normally answer the phones here. We have a call in. I don't do it myself, but the phone started ringing when we were talking. I was like, oh no, the Anti-Communist League is calling to make sure that we're not trying to take over the world or something like that with our put us all in gulags.
It will be a lot of messages coming after this interview.
I don't want to get you in any trouble. Well, let's see. Before we're gonna. Unfortunately, we're just about running out of time here, which is kind of sad. But it's been an awful lot of fun, and I think we've covered a lot of great territory. And I really want to encourage our listeners to go out and try and see as many of these films and read as many of Andre's books as you can. So, where can people find the work? Where's the best place to find it?
For his books, mostly in Amazon, unfortunately, and Kobo. So get them there. For films, this is a
little more of a challenge.
We have problems. Where we have problems because Liz and I still, talk about this, and Liz has the links to where the films are available, but I think only Rwanda Gambit and Downfall. The other, actually, I'm thinking of making a special website for his films, but I haven't had time to do that. If the it's not easy to sell films, documentary films now, and I don't know, maybe at some point I just made it free for everybody, maybe. I don't know, we'll see.
Well, I guess you could always use Rumble or Patreon or something like that and have like a subscription service where people could see the films and just pay a monthly fee or something like that.
So Andre actually has a Patreon page, but I couldn't access because his laptop and my laptop are still with the Turkish police. And I haven't had time to go there, and it's tickets prices are very, very high at this moment. So I don't know when.
Couldn't they just send it? Couldn't they just send it to you? I mean, what?
No, this is Turkish police.
I've actually traveled 3 times in Turkey, so I'm a little familiar with the Secret Service over there, and it's a little frightening. I mean, I must say, Andre's courage. Speaking of courage, and yours, when you've been followed by secret police and felt very threatened and insecure, it's an unnerving feeling. It really is. It's frightening. And to be able to keep coming back and doing that over and over again, knowing that your life and your safety is at risk. It's
No, he was very brave.
very
He
incredible.
was very, very brave.
So
He
what?
said whatever he wants to say,
Yeah.
but hold back.
Well, I think we'll go out with a piece of music. So I was going to play some Tchaikovsky, or actually I'll play a piece by Shostakovich. I'll go out with a piano concerto number 2 in F major by Dmitri Shostakovich. He's a Russian, by the way. Oops, oh no.
Yes.
So anyway, thank you so
Very
much, Rossie, for being on the show. It's been really fun. And
thank you, Malcolm.
and
Thank you so much. It's an honor, actually.
Oh, come on!
To be on your show.
It's my honor. It's my honor and my pleasure. And special thanks to Liz Hill for helping us coordinate this. Thank you, Liz. We love you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
See you next time.
Goodbye.
Take care.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
It's daytime there.
Yes, you too.
Okay, bye.
Have a rest.
Yes.
Good rest.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for Freedom Highway with your host, Nick Pankin, coming up right after this. And as they say, back up in the Northlands of Canada, where I grew up, if the good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise, we'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in.